Fascinating. So your look, I think people do put too much emphasis on status. So I agree with you there. I think disciplining yourself not to be obsessed with status, I think is a good thing. Ultimately, I do think a lot of people do focus on status, maybe to their own detriment. I don't know if you could separate it from human nature though. So that's the only place where I
I
mean,
don't
it's
think
tough for me to
status is in human
conceptualize it that
nature.
way.
I think we overestimate what human nature is. Human nature is to be rational. And that opens up possibilities of what exactly kind of rational or what we actually do. That, it's up to us. We have free will and we get to shape our nature. So to a large extent, human nature is a myth if you go beyond the idea of we have certain capabilities, but our inclination, we have certain inclinations, but our ideas and status is an idea. It's the idea that other people are more important than you. That is learned. That has nothing to do with human nature. Human nature is to be rational and to choose the best, to choose values. Which values? Based on what? That is all up to human choice.
So is it fair to say that you conceptualize status as bad because you're giving other people power over you? Is that
Yeah,
kind
absolutely.
of what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Well,
totally fascinating.
I,
You want to jump
I,
in, Sitch? Go ahead.
yeah, I think that I definitely agree that it is in human nature to have the potential to be rational. I don't think people are born. I always say this. I don't think people are born with free will. I think you have to kind of fight for it. And, but in terms of like the status question, it's interesting because the way that I think that I conceptualize it, I think the way that Adam conceptualizes is that it's hard for me to imagine that you would have an animal that would evolve that exists in some sort of group-based structure like humans that doesn't have some sort of evolved tendency towards hierarchical organization or status-seeking behavior. And it's hard to see like how you could have, hunter-gatherers or really any human society where there is not a hierarchy that comes out of status and competency. And that is sort of how people know like who to follow, who has the good ideas, as opposed to everyone just trying to do their own thing and not work together.
So a few things there. First, I want to agree with you in a sense. I think that rationality is something you have to own. You have to work at. You have to actually engage. We have an on-off switch, which is what I think free will ultimately is. It's the on is think, the off is don't think, and
Mm-hmm.
many people choose not to think. So in that sense, yeah, once you choose not to think, free will is irrelevant. It becomes irrelevant because you're not a rational. You're not in that sense a rational being. You're a mimicking being. You start mimicking everybody else because that's how you survive. In terms of status, look, status is not the same as hierarchy. Of course, hierarchies exist. People are better at some things than other things. People are going to be leaders and other people followers in a particular context and might flip in a different context. All of that is true, but that doesn't make I need to be a hero. I need to be a leader. In terms of that is my human nature is to be at the top of the status podium. I think that's ridiculous. The reality is that many of us are quite satisfied not to be at the top of whatever that thing is, as long as we're doing something we love and something we really care about. And look, one of the great advantages of getting out of hunter-gatherer societies and out of subsistence farming and out of barely surviving is the kind of division of labor society and the kind of richness of opportunities we have today
Mm-hmm.
in which we're not reliant on one hierarchy. There are a million hierarchies, and we can fit in and slot in all kinds of places, in all kinds of hierarchies, in all kinds of ways. In some places, I'm at the top in the hierarchy, and in some places, I'm at the bottom. And I don't really care if I'm at the bottom in some hierarchies because those are that's where those are the kind of choices I've made about my life.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I agree completely with like, I think it's one of the benefits of capitalism is we've talked about this a lot, creating so many different hierarchies or games or whatever we want to call it that people can succeed in. Because if you don't, then, obviously it's going to breed a lot of animosity and revolution and violence if there's only a couple paths to success.
Yep.
I guess when I think of status, I just think of maybe we're just defining it differently. I think of it kind of just like the perception that other people have of where you slot into a hierarchy. And
Yeah.
so and I also view it as that so much of human behavior is based around like reproduction and mate selection, and that it seems that males generally, not everyone, and obviously this is, we're trying to be rational beings, so things, are different and they can be different, but it seems like there's a broader theme of men trying to achieve status or climb hierarchies in order to attract women, essentially.
I think that's all right, but it's very unhealthy and it leads to unhappiness.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's right. Instead of focusing on being the best that you can be, and that's a cliche, but it's true, being the best that you can be, given who you are, focusing on how other people perceive you is a route to unhappiness. It's a route to self-destruction. And it's ultimately a route to not being very successful, I think, with women. I think the right kind of women, again, there are lots of women
Right.
who care about status, who care about how other people think of you. But is that the woman you want versus a woman who cares about you and who you are and how you fit with her, in every kind of sense. So I think the more we focus on how we look to other people, the cheaper we make our lives and the less fulfilling our lives become.
Right. No, I agree. And it could be kind of a paradoxical situation where the more you focus on something like, I have to climb the SAS hierarchy, the more, even if you accomplish that, you could be selling pieces of yourself. Could becoming a more, degenerate or immoral person, or you could be in a more unhappier state where if you are more focused on yourself and just trying to be the best you can be, you will hopefully naturally attract better people around yourself,
Exactly.
better life circumstances around yourselves, and things of that nature. So
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's kind of like that this is the human nature that I guess that we're fighting against constantly, and that's sort of what is where a lot of our problems come from.